and welcome back to Emerging Voices, a series interviewing the leaders within the NACADA Emerging Leaders Program. My name is Matt Markin from Cal State San Bernardino, and hosting with me is...
Hi, everyone. I'm Bree Harvey from SAIT up in Calgary, Alberta.
Yes, and today, Bree and I get to interview Kate Earnhardt. Kate is an academic advisor, too, at the University of Nebraska Omaha, a role she started in May of 2021. On her second day as an advisor, she went to her first NACADA webinar and has been hooked ever since on all it has to offer. Kate's educational background includes a BA in history and anthropology from UNO and an MA in ancient history from King's College London. Currently, Kate is back at her alma mater, advising adult and contemporary learners. While her first love will always be ancient Roman history, she's found a calling serving and advocating for the amazing adult learners on UNO's campus. After finally receiving her ADHD diagnosis in 2024 at the age of 36, Kate also has a passion for educating others on the joys and challenges of being neurodivergent, how to empower and support neurodivergent academic advisors, and advocating for the acceptance of neurodiversity in the higher educational landscape. When Kate isn't advising, advocating, or rattling off history fun facts, she can be found with a romantasy book in hand, hunting down new to her boho trinkets, hanging out with her best friend or best cat friend, Frankenbeans, or plotting her return to rainy London. Kate, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And usually our first question is actually to ask you about your background, but I feel like our first question really should be to tell us more about your cat friend, Frankenbeans.
Yes, that's my cat daughter, Franklin. Her Christian name is Frankenbeans, or also known as Frankfurt, Bubby, Boobert, all sorts of names, but yeah.
So, and I know Bree has maybe a cat friend as well.
Bree has a zoo.
Yeah.
So we have 2 dogs and 2 cats. And you call your cat Bubby. That's what I call our latest dog, whose name is Arlo. So it's not even a little bit close, but he's Bubby or Bubbers, or Arlo Barlow. And we also have Bones, whose Christian name is Bonesidiah Jacobson, but we call him Bones. And then we have R2 and Nim, our 2 cats. But Frankenbeans might be the cutest cat name in the world.
Yeah, and I think we might have to have another episode. Yeah, we'll just talk about all our pets that we have or have had.
And... on board.
So, Kate, tell us more about, expand upon your bio. Tell us more about your origin story in higher education.
So I started college at the ripe old age of 17, and that's kind of where I found myself. I was pretty shy as a kid, very reserved and very in my shell. And then when I got to college, I kind of blossomed and found myself. And so I kind of realized then that's where I wanted to be. Some way, shape, or form in like an educational, like higher educational landscape. So my dad is retired now, but he was a public school teacher. And my little sister eventually became public school teacher. And so that was kind of where I thought their trajectory was going. That's where my mom was kind of scooting me. And I was like, I'm not blessed with those skills to be able to handle public school students. So the dream was always to become a history professor and then keep going with my ancient history. Now I'm just a part-time historian and a full-time academic advisor. So after I was done with my master's degree, I had to come back home to Omaha and eventually got a job at my alma mater and landed into academic advising. And I was like, oh, this is my forever home. This is where I'm going to be. I love it. So that's a real short spiel on the origin story. Real short.
I love it. It's great. And I feel like you and I are like soul sisters because I had a very similar journey. I also, in my first degree, my minor was Roman archaeology and history. So like you and me, we're gonna have an offline chat. I would love to poke at it a little bit and find out. You mentioned you got a job at your alma mater. What was the first job? We've talked to a lot of people like Nobody wakes up and is like, I want to be an academic advisor when I grow up, but we all somehow ended up here and are happy here. So what was your gateway job?
So my gateway job here at UNO was I was a staff assistant, and I was a staff assistant for about a year and a half. I got that job in January of 2020. And so it was about, 6 weeks later, everyone said, bye-bye, like, go home, don't come back. And even though this is my alma mater, like, that was 8 years after graduating. And even though I kind of, like I said, I blossomed when I got to college, I also was the student that, like, I went to school and then I went to work and then I went home. So I didn't really do much like extracurricular. So I didn't really have like connections on campus. So when I got that job and then we had to go home, like, the only person I knew was my boss. And that was the only person I talked to, because I worked in a very small office where she and I were the only two full-time employees in that office. And I kind of actually said in my interview with her, I didn't really realize at the time that maybe you shouldn't say this in an interview to a different like position, but I kind of said like, oh, I would love to become an academic advisor one day. And so even though I said that in a job interview for a position that had nothing to do with academic advising, that's what got my foot in the door. And then I saw the job opening for the position I'm in now. And I kind of thought to myself, okay, my imposter was telling me they're not going to hire you for this job. But I just had to tell myself, like, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't at least try. Like, the answer is no if you don't try. And all you can, like, you are asking a yes or no question at the very heart of it. You're asking if you can have this job. They might say no, and that's fine. But they did not say no. They said yes. And I just kind of like, took off from there and like really took to it. I really love the population of students that we advise in my department. And it's just been like, now I know everybody on campus. Now it's the opposite.
Oh, that's awesome. And tell us more about like the division of continuing students. I know not like every institution has a division like that. I know like the school I work at, we don't have a division of continuing students. So tell us more about that and kind of like your responsibilities as an academic advisor too.
So Division of Continuing Studies, it's, I think, one of the oldest degree programs on our campus. It essentially began, I think like 80 years ago now. And it essentially began as like the night school for grownups and has since evolved to be kind of like online programming, still catering to adult and contemporary learners. So contemporary learners being, maybe they are traditional age students, but they need to be completely online. We also have a big population of military connected learners. So people that are veterans or they're active duty military members. We have a big population of those students. So that's who we advise, mainly adult learners, mainly people that they started school as a traditional age student and then life happened and then they had to take a bunch of time off, and now they're my age, 37. That's how old I am. I've had students that are, in their 50s, 60s coming back to school because they started in the 70s and they had to take a bunch of time off. And now I want to do this for me and I'm coming back. So have a lot of students like that. I've had people come back. I mean, I've seen transcripts. I saw a transcript once that was from the 50s. So I was like, ooh, this is so cool. Like because the historian in me was like, how can we make this work? And so a lot of what we do is puzzle piecing credit together. It is very rare when we have a student that has no credit at all. I mean, I personally have seen this 4 times and I get real nervous. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's nothing for me to play around with and like evaluate and look at. So we kind of are able to puzzle piece things together and make like a jigsaw puzzle. and a lot of critical and creative thinking. So we can take this thing and that thing and marry it together and then do this here and do that there and make sure you get an upper level class over here. And boom, you've got your bachelor's degree. So that's a lot of what we do and a lot of what I do in my degree program. We also help a lot of students that maybe they're stuck in their current program at UNO, or maybe there's a hurdle they just can't get past. A lot of times, maybe it's like a math requirement and they just cannot get past it, or like a world language requirement they're just not taking to it and they just can't get past it at all. So we can welcome those students to our program and then help them still stay on the track that they want to be on. They wouldn't necessarily get the degree, like the name of the degree that they were getting before, but they can still do what they want to do. So that's what we do in our Bachelor of Multidisciplinary Studies degree program. That was a bit more of a long-winded answer for you.
I love it. I am here for it. And it's so interesting as we've been doing this series, talking to different people about the different nuances of each institution. Because like Matt said, not every institution has a department of continuing studies. And it's just been a really interesting learning experience hearing about those little pockets of uniqueness. Uniqueness? We'll pretend it's a word. I'd love to hear more if you're open to sharing. So when you think about your advising practice, looking at the difference between talking to a 17 or 18-year-old versus somebody in their 50s, or even with a transcript from the 50s, the process is going to look different because, like you said, you have to kind of puzzle together some credit. But how do you change your approach to the conversation when you're working with those two different age groups?
That's a good question. Do I know that I do. It's probably really subtle. I think that's a little bit of the ADHD coming in, though, is that I kind of don't know how to not be authentically me, especially now that I'm learning how to unmask and like not try to appear quote unquote normal all the time. But I might talk to a more traditional aged learner in a way of like, for me, it's a little bit easier to maybe give them tough love if they need it. I kind of tap into that like big sister mentality because my sister is 8 years younger than me. We're besties. And I love her so much. And if she's going to be listening to this, so like shout out to Hannah, love you so much. So we're besties. But I grew up like very parentified. And so I have that like big sister gene in me. So I kind of tap into that like big sister mentality. And so I can give them a little bit of tough love if they need it, but they know that it's coming. Hopefully they know it's coming from a place of like true concern, love. Like I want to be here for you to help you, but you also have to help yourself. But maybe with a more grown up person, like when it's someone that's older than me, then I'm like, because I'm also a little sister, because my brother is also 8 years older than me. So sometimes I find myself balking and I want to defer to them just as like, you're older than me. I want to give you that inherent like respect that you give someone that's older than you. But I also you don't have to give them tough love because they've been through like, they're like, school is not the hardest thing I have ever done. Like, they're like, I've raised kids. I've had a job for 20 years. Like, I've taken care of parents. Like, a lot of them come back and they're like, oh, this was so hard when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. But now, like, get me all the classes. 21 hours. I can do it all in one semester. And it's easy for them. So I don't have to handhold them as much. But also sometimes you do have to it's really, you have to tailor it to almost every person because every learner is different. Every student is different, no matter what age bracket they're in. So I'm kind of like an advising chameleon. Which that's going to go in my bio now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a nice way to put it. Yeah. And, it was also in your bio, it's mentioned that you have a passion for educating others on not only the joys, but also the challenges of being neurodivergent and how to empower and support neurodivergent academic advisors as well as students. So I was wondering if you could share potentially like, what are some maybe common misconceptions that people might have about someone who is neurodivergent?
Oh my God, I would love to answer that question. So I actually, I made a presentation on this. I presented this at our regional conference, Region 6, and not to be braggadocious, but I did win Best of Region for that presentation. It is a huge passion project for me. I will hopefully, if we can get funding, be presenting that at annual conference in October. So like there's my little plug for that. But seriously, common misconceptions about ADHD in particular, because there's neurodivergent is an umbrella term. There are as many people as there are, that's how many ways you could be neurodivergent. But ADHD in particular, the huge, like very common misconceptions, common myths about it are it only happens to boys, that it is a childhood disease and you grow out of it. And it's ADHD is just being too hyperactive and bouncing off the walls. So it does not happen to just boys. It can happen to literally anyone. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder, so it happens in utero. There's links, there's a theory that it is genetic. And as I say in my presentation, if you've met Jim Earnhardt, my dad, it is genetic. Yes, that man's got some kind of something. So thanks, Dad, for the ADHD. But there's no cure for it. You do not grow out of it. To be kind of morbid about it, like you were born with it, you will die with it. It's all a matter of, as my therapist says, creating your ecosystem and having that ecosystem work for you, as opposed to like you working for the environment around you, things like that. And ADHD is truly not just being like bouncing off the walls. You can be ADHD and be completely silent and still, and all the hyperactivity is happening in your brain. So it's these myths kind of came into fruition because ADHD presents in boys and in men a lot more hyperactive than it does in women. Women tend to present, and not to be like gender binary about it, like this is just the language we have, but women tend to present more inattentive. And so like the daydreamer, the person that is, they're constantly forgetting things and absent-minded. And so this myth came into being because little boys who are hyperactive are the most disruptive in classroom environments. So it's easier to diagnose them. And because it's so disruptive and like, from an early age, like that child has ADHD and we need to help them. But the little girl or the little boy, because boys can present as inattentive as well, but the child that maybe is more inattentive, like me, you don't notice it and you don't realize until, a lot of times for women, especially, until later in life, when things start adding up and you're like, oh, that's why I've always been like this. And that's why my mood can change really quickly. And that's why I get really sensitive to like injustices I hear. And that's why I'm really sensitive to rejection. And maybe it's not imposter syndrome. Maybe it's just the ADHD that's always been messing with me. So I should also say, I am not a therapist. I just go to a lot of therapy. So if I'm saying stuff wrong, please don't correct me because I will cry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. And I have another question, a follow-up question. Thinking a little bit kind of about that generational gap too. I know when I have conversations with boomers and up, basically, or even some of the older Gen Xers, a lot of the languages, this wasn't around when I was a kid. It's like peanut allergies. These weren't a thing. And we just toughed it out. And now that there's more awareness, we are hearing of more people like yourself that are being diagnosed at a later age. I would, if you're willing to share, I'd love to hear how this has influenced your advising practice, because you said you were diagnosed in 2024, I think, in your bio it said. So that's very recent history. How have you had to adjust, or how have you chosen to adjust your advising practice, knowing this about yourself and helping build, like you said, that ecosystem of what works best for you?
Yeah, so I started, like a lot of women, I started suspecting during the pandemic because we all had a lot more time to kind of do a self-inventory and to think about ourselves a little bit. And I started seeing all these things and I was like, wait, I do that. And I was like, I don't have ADHD though, because like I can sit and listen to lectures and I went to school. And then I started to realize, like, learning about it, and I was like, ooh, but but you do this and this and this and this and this, and that's ADHD, girl. So I actually had my when I started suspecting and I had gone to my doctor, she said, and I quote, "You can't have ADHD, you finished your master's degree." And I was like, I don't know if that's how this works though. And also I didn't have a job, and like my only responsibility was going to school. And also you don't know what I had to do to, like, I had to get extensions and I was pulling teeth and like all this and that. Anyway, so there was years when I was advising that I was suspecting, but I wasn't in therapy for it, like to help me kind of learn and unlearn things. So it's only been maybe with, like, since I got my diagnosis, because that's how long I've been seeing my therapist. And a lot of what we talk about is ADHD things, is kind of unlearning how to not put myself first, and learning how putting myself first is how I help students and how I help people. So one of the common practices for a lot of advisors on campus and in my office is essentially like no turnaround time between appointments. They'd be like 15 minutes. And I was like, absolutely the hell not. Like, there's no way. Because I got to finish my note, and that is pulling teeth with me. Advising notes make me want to become violent. Not really, but that's just how I say it. But advising notes are really hard for me to do. I have to trick myself to do them every single time. I have to send the follow-up email. I got to go fill my water bottle up. I got to go talk to this one person. I got to answer this email. You can't do that in 15 minutes. And so I instituted for myself 30 minutes. There's no way that I can not have 30 minutes in between the appointments. And it was not met with any pushback, which I was happy about, but I would have advocated for myself. Like, there's just no way, like, you can't make me do this. I also disclose pretty much in every meeting I have that I have ADHD, because my most pronounced symptom, my most noticeable symptom, is when I can't find my words. That started happening in grad school, actually. Like, and I was like, oh my God, I have a brain tumor, I'm dying, because like I couldn't find my words. Like, it's casual. So when I can't find my words and I start, like, I essentially just kind of go nonverbal, and then I have to pause for a while, and I'm like, my brain is telling me rock, but like the word is clock. like, and I have, like, I'm trying to make these connections. I tell the student, I have ADHD. This is my most noticeable symptom. And a lot of them will go, oh, me too. And so that it makes me feel better to disclose to people, because I want them to understand me. But it also helps, I have found that it has helped me to become closer to a lot of my students. And it is, for me, maybe this wouldn't be easy for everyone, but for me, it's an easy way to connect with them. And I think a lot of them then can know that I am hopefully a safe person for them to be around and a safe person for them to open up to. So those are some of the things that I've incorporated into. I used to get really nervous about disclosing. I still kind of get nervous about it with older students, because it's me being a little judgmental. I'm just worried that they wouldn't understand it as much, but they do. And I don't always disclose to students if I kind of feel like this is not relevant, or it wouldn't be met with, like, it would not be met the way I want it to be met. So those are just kind of things that I do in my practice to help me and to advocate for myself so that I can have the energy to advocate for other people. Oh, also take your lunch break. If you don't take your lunch break, I'm going to come for you. Okay. I'm going to call the FBI. All right. You have to take your lunch break. I always take my lunch break so I can just have some time to like turn my brain off, listen to some music, play a little game on my phone, like just help myself re-regulate, go on a little walk. Walking really helps to regulate your nervous system. But if you don't take your lunch break, I will come after you. I said it.
Love it.
Yeah. Anyone that's listening, please take your lunch break. Yes. But like Bree was saying, yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. I mean, I think it's a lot of great tips, and just kind of being vulnerable to share your story. I think is fantastic that you're doing that. I think it's just wild though to be told that no, you can't have ADHD because you got your master's degree. I think that's absolutely wild that happened. But switching gears, I was kind of looking at your bio, and when we were reading it earlier, and I was interested to know more about, is it your second day? You then do a NACADA webinar, and then that's what hooked you. I know probably like for me, I would have been like so nervous. Like I just started as an advisor. Now you're having me do like this NACADA webinar and watching it. What was it about starting out as an advisor doing this NACADA webinar that was like, yep, I see myself being in this field? Yeah.
So the only reason I know that it was my second day was because a few years ago, my office put together an award packet for me to nominate me for one of the global awards, the best new advisor. I did not win, which is voter fraud, by the way. Okay. I'm saying it now. It's all that matters was that I was nominated. Okay. That was actually a huge confidence boost. I was so excited. I've never gotten nominated for an award like that. Anywho, so in the nomination packet, my supervisor wanted me, she was like, when did you start like doing NACADA things? And we went back in time on the calendar, and she was like, so you were hired the day before, you started in our office the day before you did this first webinar. And I don't remember which one it was. I don't really remember how I figured it out. Maybe one of my new office mates was like, hey, you should check out NACADA while you're like training. And professional development is my jam because of the ADHD. I really like learning new things. It's a novelty motivator for me. So I really like learning new things. And because I was in this new role, and I'm like a little sponge, I just love learning things. And I thought, well, I'm gonna like check out this stuff. This can be supplemental to the things I'm learning from the people in my office, and this can teach me about this thing and that thing. And there's whole advising philosophies, and you can make a syllabus, and you could do this and that, and it was really fascinating to me because I never would have thought something like NACADA existed, and I just really loved all of the supplemental things that you can do with NACADA. And so I can't remember what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I don't know. Time means nothing, especially for a historian, especially for an ADHDer, especially for an ADHD historian. So time means nothing. It's made up. But however many years ago, I did the mentoring program in Region 6 RAMP and loved it. And one of my goals was, I'm going to apply for ELP when it comes back. So I had my eye on that for years. The first annual conference I went to was Portland. And even before then, that was 22. Girl, I don't remember. It was some year. And even before then, I had my eye on ELP. And I met Amy Korthank at our regional meeting in Portland. And she said, have you ever thought about ELP? And I was like, actually, yes. I don't think I would ever get accepted, but it has been on my radar. And she was like, it's on pause right now, but like you should you should check it out. Girl, when I tell you I had that tab open, checking back all the time to like, when is ELP going to start back up? When's it going to start back up? And when it started back up, that was at the tail end of my ramp mentorship. I loved ramp. I love my ramp mentor, Kelly Pistilli. Shout out to Kelly. And one of my goals was, I'm going to apply for ramp. And she was a really big help to that. I applied for it. I was like, I'm not going to. There are people, I can't, somebody that, it might even be somebody like one of the mentors in our class right now was like, I had to apply 3 times. And I was like, her, she had to apply 3 times. Like, they're not going to let me in. Like, I'll apply again. And then they let me in. So then of course my imposter said, oh, that's because only 12 people applied. Like that has to be why. But I have been assured that's not true. But yeah, it's been like this whole big hand in hand relationship of like starting advising and always having like something in NACADA in the back burner. I'm also the Nebraska liaison for Region 6 as well, which is also great because I love our steering committee. Shout out to all of them too.
That's great. And I love all the shout outs. I also love the shout out to PD in general. I think it's so important. And it's one of those, like, if we don't take it upon ourselves to learn new things, then it's really easy to get stagnated because a lot of the work that we do can be repetitive in nature. And so kudos to you for doing that right out the gate. Now we're less than a year into ELP, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how your first year has been going. What have your goals been? How are your goals? Are your goals being met? Have you already like check, or are you like, absolutely not? We're going to lead them into year 2. How is ELP going for you, Kate?
I think it's going really well. Sarah Howard is my mentor. I really like her a lot. I think we vibe really well. She's really easy to talk to, and it's just been really great getting to connect with her. So the goals for year 1, I did 3 of them, and I kind of did it in a sense of like, what's a really easy one? And to be honest, I don't remember what they are now. Because ADHD is not letting me remember right now. I want to say it was like do another presentation at annual, and maybe it was that one. So I wanted to do one that was like, this is super easy and it's attainable like quickly, and that will help me kind of like check this off and like get that dopamine hit that ADHDers are always chasing. Then I wanted to do one that was maybe a little more long-term, and that one was write an article for Academic Advising Today. That one I have not met yet, but more on that to come. And then I wanted to do like a big lofty one. So I was like, this is like almost like my pipe dream goal. And my pipe dream goal is to, now I know that this one might have to get reworked quite a bit, or maybe even like scrapped, I don't know. But because the advising communities, like it's getting completely revamped. But what I would love is to create an affinity group or like an advising community for neurodivergent advisors. I think there's a lot of need for it. And just based off of doing my presentation, just the one time at regionals, like it was really affirming to me and gratifying to me to hear so many people say, this made me feel seen. This made me feel so like not so alone. I thought it was only me that dealt with these things. Thank you so much for saying these things. And I was like, this is why I wanted to do this presentation, so that people, it's so easy for us to get shut behind our doors and like stuck in, and like you don't talk to anybody, you don't see anybody all day. And I was like, this is why I wanted to do this presentation, to let people know that like, you are not alone. There are so many of us that live with this and deal with these things. And I think that could be a huge boon to NACADA. But I know, so like I said, that one's my lofty goal. Might be like a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan or something. But so obviously that one's on the back burner, but kind of working towards the article, because as one of my former colleagues at UNO, Katie Larson, she now works at Creighton in Omaha, which weirdly, I only ever see Katie when we're at conferences in different cities, but we live in Omaha. So Katie, if you're listening, like, love you, boo. So Katie Larson was the first person that always told me, like, if you've done the work of a presentation, you've done the work of an article. You just need to like finesse it and form it into an article. So Sarah's going to help me with that. We've got like deadlines in place, which like ADHDers love a deadline. So we've got things in place for that. And kind of what my presentation goal has turned into is potentially turning that presentation into like a workshop. So that might be like, that'll be like a new goal in year 2 is, because my present, it got right up to an hour. I was like, ooh, there's no time for Q&A. So I think there are ways I could turn it into a workshop so that we can make more tangible, like more, I guess I should say more time for like learning about how to incorporate tips and tricks to mitigate challenges we feel and how to advocate better for ourselves. So that's kind of how things are going in year 2. Sorry, my only personality trait is having ADHD. So that's like where all of my goals are aligned with having personality traits, having ADHD, being a Roman historian. Those 2 things.
And Frankenbeans.
Yes. Here's another thought too. Like if you have it as a presentation or a concurrent session, thinking about expanding it out to a workshop. Maybe it's also, you're within Region 6 on the steering committee. Potentially there's like, I know they don't call them webinars for the regions, but whatever that is called, maybe that could be a topic to have for Region 6, but then anyone in any other region could be invited to that as well. So now it gets it out to the masses in another way. So something else to consider with that too. But another EOP question is like, you've talked about your goals year 1, possible ones for year 2, kind of the ones even after that. Let's just say someone is interested in applying. You kind of talked about like, oh, I thought I wasn't going to get accepted, especially if like, other individuals applied 3 times. What's your advice for someone that is interested in applying and maybe even just starting out? Because not that you remembered like the questions that were asked, but they were kind of really kind of deep dive into like who you are and what you represent, what your interests are. What's your advice for someone starting out, even wanting to apply and even getting started on their application?
Yeah, so one of my coworkers, we had breakfast a couple weeks ago because she wanted to learn more about ELP. And I think she's been advising for a little longer than I have. And so she was kind of asking questions like that, like who's allowed to do it and this and that. And I was like, there are people like in my class that are assistant directors and directors of advising. Like it's not, I kind of tried to dispel, not the myth, what's the word my brain is trying to say? You're seeing ADHD happen right now. The kind of like misnomer, I guess, is a good word of it's to develop your leadership skills. Like, yeah, in a way it is to develop your leadership skills. That's a byproduct, but it's to develop your leadership skills within NACADA, like your leadership potential within NACADA. And so it's like, yeah, I think you have to be a member for like a year, 2 years, like something like that. Like maybe that, I was like, I think that used to be a rule, but maybe they scrapped it. I don't know. I was like, but there are people that have been advising for a decade and are in ELP. So I was telling her, I was like, if you want to start out like small, like I was like, RAMP, Region 6 Advising Mentoring Program, like RAMP is a great place to start. And then you can kind of get your feet wet and then go from there. I think with the application, I kind of actually thought of it as like my grad school application and like my letter of intent and like a cover letter of sorts, like this is the only time I will talk about myself in capitalistic vocabulary, but I am like, you are a product. You need to sell yourself. So like, you know exactly what you've done. You know why you should be included in this. Tell them, like, be braggadocious, like brag on yourself. So like, I had opened up my resume because it gets hard for me to kind of think of myself in terms like that of like, well, I kind of get like, well, yeah, I've done that, but like, no. Like, look at yourself the way like an outsider would look at you. And so I opened up my resume and I was like, well, damn, according to this, I have done a lot. So I kind of used that to remind me like, okay, these are the things that I've done. This is why you want me in your program. And so I kind of tell people like that, like, you need to market yourself. You know why you want them to pick you, tell them. So like in my application, like I called out NACADA a little bit. I was like, you want me in your program because I'm an advisor for adult learners and they are woefully underrepresented in higher ed, in NACADA as well. And I was like, case in point, I did a presentation on adult learners at regional. The room held 75 people and there were 72 people in it. So at a regional conference, so people want to learn about adult learners. So I called them out. And I kind of think that little bit of tough love maybe helped me a little bit. So I tell people, like, don't be afraid to brag on yourself. Don't be afraid to tell people your accomplishments, because they want people like that to be in their programs.
Absolutely. And I'm 100% stealing braggadocious because that is outstanding. But it's this whole idea, and you've talked a few times about imposterism, and I know a common technique for countering imposterism then is talk about yourself the way you would want your best friend to talk about you, or the way you would talk about your best friend. And like you said, you open your resume and you're like, damn girl, I've done a lot of stuff. How would your best friend tell you? What are the things that they would say about you? Because you are great and you have done great things. And it's hard, I think, for a lot of people. And I think particularly for women, it's hard to really internalize those accomplishments and see them for what they are. And so sometimes it takes just that shift in your brain of, how do I perceive this? And am I downplaying it because it's me and because I'm uncomfortable and I want to hide, like, no, it's no big deal. It's fine. Everybody's done this. That no, celebrate yourself like you would celebrate your best friend. In our last kind of few minutes here, we have probably time for a couple more questions, but what are some things that you think, so you talked about your advising community, what are some things that you think other advisors could get out of being in an advising community or an affinity group or some kind of connection opportunity for other advisors, or even people who want to just learn more about advisors who are under that giant umbrella of neurodivergence?
Oh my God. People could get so much out of it. I don't even know where to start. So I'll say this. So we have an academic advising council on my campus. It's every advisor and then everybody that might even just be like tangentially involved in advising. And we try to we meet monthly, the third Thursday of every month, I think, towards the end of the day. And what we try to do is we try to always have like a little social afterwards, and maybe like 5 people show up. And I don't think it's because people don't want to go. It's because people feel like they can't step outside of their office for an hour. They don't have time to do it. They've got 15 emails to answer. They've got 7 appointments tomorrow. They don't have time. I'll talk to you guys when I talk to you guys. And the socials are self-care because it's allowing us to be in community with each other. And maybe we're just shooting the breeze and we're talking about whatever, maybe we're letting off steam and talking like, this thing really frustrated me, and like, listen to this, or like my director did that, like you're just letting off steam. And that is really important when we are in the profession that we're in, because it's high turnover, it's high stress, it's a million pounds of emotional labor. And I think a lot of people think that advising is just, what classes do you want to take? Advising is also, I got kicked out of my house, I don't have food, I am experiencing an unplanned pregnancy, I am undocumented and I'm afraid I'm going to get deported. And you're like having to hold it together while the student is in your office and trying to be strong for them. And the second they turn around, you like just dissolve into a puddle. Or maybe this is the first time you've met a kid and they just like trauma dump all over you. And then you're like, so what major do you want to declare? So it is really important for us to be in community with each other and to know that we can rely on one another, because I think that will directly impact turnover rates. I think it directly impacts job satisfaction. Advising is also highly collaborative. So like, I make it my mission to know as many people as I can, because especially in my degree program, I have to know a little bit about a lot of every kind of program on campus, because our degree program is so individualized and creative. So I know this person, that person, everybody. And if I'm like, I feel like we're going to be friends, let's go to lunch. And like, let's make time to be in community with each other and think about it and like help each other. We're going to be friends. Having advising communities, I think, is really important. It's just that we have to tell people like, there actually is time in your day to prioritize this, because prioritizing this is prioritizing yourself. And you cannot serve people if you have nothing even to give yourself. So that's my millennial socialist soapbox. And I will stand on it. Also, braggadocious, I think, is a thing that Donald Trump said. So I say it to be like, to like dunk on him. Just to make it clear.
Well, building community and collaboration, I think that's a great way to end this interview. Kate, this is great. I mean, it's been great for Bray and I to talk to you and get to know you a lot better as well. And you shared a lot of great tips I think listeners will appreciate. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Kate.